This is the video lecture for the article, The Lost Art of Concentration. There's a couple of objectives in this annotation exercise. The first is to circle words that are unfamiliar to us, after we realize we don't know them, look them up, and write down a synonym. A synonym is a word of similar meaning. We also want to identify key sections of a text. These are important sections that are crucial or critical to our understanding of the article. We want to write down any questions that we have. Maybe it's things that we're confused on, or maybe it's things that we disagree with. We want to try to engage with this text as though we were having a conversation with the article. We also want to keep a lookout for claims and evidence. Claims are opinions. Opinions are good. They're better when they're backed up by some kind of evidence. So let's jump into the lost art of concentration, being distracted in a digital world. This is obviously the title. This is the author. And then the Guardian is who published it. And this is the date of publication. So we're going to call this the date of pub. Okay. And we're going to actually start this paper with a claim. We check our phone every 12 minutes just after waking up. This is the author claiming something. I don't see anything here as far as a source or citation. And we're going to continue into probably their thesis that always-on behavior is harmful to long-term mental health, and we need to learn to hit the pause button. So this is certainly going to be the thesis. This is the overall idea and subject that the author is going to be focused on. This is all found in paragraph 1. Paragraph 2. It is difficult to imagine life before our personal and professional worlds were so dominated and switched on via smartphones and other devices that make us accessible and, crucially, so easily distractible and interruptible every second of the day. So again, we are easily distractible and interruptible all the time. So this is going to be tied with this thought of always-on behavior is harmful to mental health. So the author is using their thesis to give a really solid topic sentence. They continue. This constant fragmentation of our time. So to fragment, this is to break, like to break down. Fragmentation of our time and concentration has become the new normal, to which we have adapted with ease, but there is a downside. More and more experts are telling us that these interruptions and distractions have eroded our ability to concentrate. Paragraph 3. We have known for a long time that repeated interruptions affect concentration. Okay, this is a key part. Repeated interruptions affect concentration. In fact, and I love this, we're going to have a great piece of evidence. In 2005, research carried out by Dr. Glenn Wilson at the London's Institute of Psychiatry. This is an awesome source. All this evidence should support this repeated interruptions affect concentration. They found that persistent interruptions, so interruptions and distractions at work, had a profound effect. Those distracted by emails and phone calls saw a 10-point fall in their IQ, twice that found in studies on the impact of smoking marijuana. So this is crazy. We know that marijuana is bad for our brains, and yet this distraction, this interruption is twice as bad as smoking marijuana. So I'm just going to make a note here, like, wow. Distraction equals 2x bad. It'd be helpful if I drew that the right way. There we go. 2x bad on weed. That's crazy. More than half of 1,100 participants said they always respond to an email immediately or as soon as possible, with 21% admitting that they would interrupt a meeting to do so. That's crazy. Constant interruptions can have the same effect as the loss of a night's sleep. So constant interruptions equal losing a night's sleep. Let's go to paragraph number 4. Nicholas Carr picked up on this in an article in The Atlantic in 2008 before going on to publish his book The Shallows 2 years later. I'm going to stop here for a second. I do not like this. This is, I'm going to say, horrible source. I want you guys to notice the difference of Nicholas Carr. So here's my question. Who is this? Expertise? Is he an expert in this? He's some dude who wrote an article in a magazine, and then he published a book. Versus, contrast this, let's check this out. Contrast this with Dr. Glenn Wilson at the London Institute of Psychiatry. These are two different. F-F-E-R-E-N-T. These are two different sources. I'm going to say Dr. Glenn Wilson. I'm going to give him like a big smiley face. Nicholas Carr, I do not like this. That does not seem a very credible source. Nonetheless, let's continue. What does he have to say? He says, quote, immersing myself. This is, to immerse is like to put into water, maybe to drown. Immersing myself in a book or lengthy article used to be easy, he wrote. My mind would get caught up in the narrative or the turns of the argument, and I'd spend hours strolling through stretches of prose. I do love the imagery here. This, that, going on a walk through stretches of prose. That's rarely the case anymore. Now, my concentration often starts to drift after 2 or 3 pages. I get fidgety, I lose the thread, and I begin looking for something else to do. I feel as though I'm always dragging my wayward brain back to the text. The deep reading that used to come naturally has become a struggle. Okay. I like that. No problems there. Let's go ahead and move to paragraph number 5. The impact of interruptions on individual productivity can also be catastrophic. I love this word. Good word, good image. In 2002, it was reported that on average, we experience an interruption every 8 minutes, or about 7 or 8 per hour. In an 8-hour day, this is about 60 interruptions. That's crazy. The average interruption takes about 5 minutes, so that's about 5 hours out of 8. Wow. And if it takes around 15 minutes to resume the interrupted activity at a good level of concentration, this means that we are never concentrating very well. Okay, I am curious. Where's this from? This whole section here, I can agree with just thinking about my own reflective phone use, email use, distractibility. I would have liked maybe some more information on this whole 15 minutes to resume in an activity. Let's continue to paragraph 6. In August of 2018, Research from the UK telecoms regulator, Ofcom, so this seems like a good source. Reported that people check their smartphones on average every 12 minutes during their waking hours. Oh, that's interesting. So if you guys remember, way back up here, we had this claim that we check our phones every 12 minutes. And let's get a fancy color. This claim is actually going to be tied down way down here. 2 pages later. This is the evidence. Where is it coming from? Here is the source. Okay. Let's look at some other numbers. Let's find another color. Let's go Pretty Sparkles. With 71% never turning off their phone and 40% checking within 5 minutes of waking up. That's nuts. Both Facebook and Instagram announced they were developing new tools designed to limit usage in response to claims that excessive social media use can have a negative impact on their mental health. So, excessive social media can have. So this seems a little uncertain. Does it? Or not? Can have. I would have liked this to maybe say use does have or will have a negative impact on mental health. 7. Continuous partial attention. I've never heard of that. Or CPA was a phrase coined by the ex-Apple and Microsoft consultant Linda Stone. Okay, let's stop here for a minute. So I don't know who Linda Stone is, just like I did not know who Nicholas Carr was. Remember, this guy is not like this Glenn Wilson doctor. I could probably go look him up. But here's what I do like about Linda Stone. She worked at Apple and Microsoft. So those are 2 big heavy hitters in the tech industry. So she's probably pretty smart. To be able to work at both of those companies. And here's what she says. By adopting an always-on, anywhere, anytime, any place behavior, we exist in a constant state of alertness that scans the world but never gives our full attention to anything. So this is the problem. In short, in the short term, we adapt well to these demands, but in the long term, the stress hormones adrenaline and cortisol create a psychological hyper-alert state that is always scanning for stimuli. This equals provoking a sense of addiction, temporarily assuaged by checking in. Crazy. Let's look at paragraph number 8. Paragraph number 8. With our heavy use of digital media, it could be said that we have taken multitasking to new heights. So it could be. It could be said, but we're not actually multitasking. Rather, so what are we doing? We are switching rapidly between different activities. Adrenaline and cortisol, those are those stress drugs up here. Are designed to support us through bursts of intense activity, maybe like fighting or running from a dog. But in the long term, cortisol can knock out the feel-good hormones of 2 important ones here, serotonin and dopamine in the brain. What do serotonin and dopamine do? Help us feel calm and happy. It also affects our sleep and heart rate and makes us feel jittery. So these serotonin and dopamine, these are the feel-good brain drugs. Anything we do that feels good is usually a serotonin or a dopamine. Let's look at paragraph 9. It would seem then that this psychological adaptation fostered by our behavior, who's causing this? We are. It's a predominant reason for the poor concentration so many people report. The fact that we are the cause of this, paradoxically, good news. Why is it good news? Here's why. It hands us back the potential to change our behavior and reclaim the brain function and cognitive health that's been disruptive by our digitally enhanced lives. So here's the good news. You ready? We messed ourselves up. We messed up. But we can fix it. That's awesome news. This may be even more important than just improving our levels of concentration. Constant, high levels of circulating stress hormone. Oh, this sounds bad. Stress hormone have inflammatory and detrimental effects on the brain cells, suggests the psychiatrist Edward Bulmore, who has written about the link between inflammation and depression in his latest book, The Inflamed Mind. Depression, along with anxiety, is a known factor for knocking out concentration. Which makes sense, right? Depressed equals bad concentration. Okay, let's check out paragraph 10. Put simply, better concentration makes life easier and less stressful. That's a good thing. And we will be more productive. To make this change, what change? To make better concentration means reflecting on what we are doing to sabotage, reflecting, to think about what we are doing to sabotage personal concentration, and then implementing, taking action towards behavioral changes that will improve our chances of concentrating better. This means deliberately, on purpose, reducing distractions and being more self-disciplined about our use of social media, which are increasingly urgent for the sake of our cognitive and mental health. Paragraph 11. It takes about 3 weeks for a repeating behavior to form a habit. So 3 weeks. 21 days. Says Jeremy Dean, a psychologist and the author of Making Habits, Breaking Habits. Getting into a new habit will not, what's it not going to be? It's not going to happen overnight, and adaptation can be incremental. This means little at a time. Which makes sense. You're not going to go run a marathon without slowly building up to it. So, how do we do this? Maybe we start by switching off smartphones alerts, or maybe you take the social media apps off the phone. And then, so maybe here's step 1. Step 1, turn off alerts. And then, so that's step number 2. Switch off the device for longer periods of time. So maybe start with 15 minutes. And then work your way up to 1 hour. Paragraph 12. Practice concentration by finding things. So how? By finding things to do that specifically engage you for a period of time. to the exclusion of all else. So get hooked on a hobby. That's what I'm hearing. What is noticeable is that you cannot just go from a state of distraction to one of concentration in the same way that most of us cannot fall asleep the minute our head hits the pillow. It takes a bit of time and, with practice, becomes easier to accomplish. Okay, now on the reflection, all we're doing is giving some thoughts about the article. I found something interesting. Maybe I thought blank was cool. I agree or disagree with something. So, give me a reflection. Hopefully this video helps.